Hello and welcome to my Woolly PhD, the very poorly lit edition. My name's Liz Scarf and this is a weekly vlog about what I'm learning and making each week in my anthropology PhD, all about wool. So here I am finally in Iceland, and if you don't know why I'm in Iceland, check out the first video. It gives the introductory video, it gives an overview of the project. So anyway, I'm recording this on Sunday. I got here last Monday and I think I'm done with the jet lag. That's nice. It's not too bad coming over this way. It's pretty horrendous coming home. But anyway, it's been a very exciting week. And now that I'm in the field, I'm not quite sure how that might change the structure of the vlog, as I'm going to be reading a lot less. It's quite cold and windy here today. The first few days it wasn't so windy. It's been windy yesterday and today. So anyway, see how that goes over time. But yeah, anyway, less about the weather. I'm not sure how the structure will change because I won't be reading as much, but maybe it will just help me read more. But so, I don't know, maybe the bit about what am I learning this week might be a bit of a mix of academic and practice-based learning. For example, this week I learned how to use the buses. And on one such bus trip, I was struck with a very deep anthropological question of where are the pastries? I felt like I'd been walking around for a few days and hadn't seen any, but I hadn't been looking, it turns out. So I did actually Google that exact question and then went and gathered some data from the very popular Braith, I think it's pronounced, and I can confirm that their cinnamon scroll is actually all that. And that the pistachio eclair from Sweet Aurora is also incredible. So it was quite tough going in terms of data gathering, I have to say, as someone who is generally very low gluten and no dairy. So I hope something really world-changing will come out of that research, but I will keep up the explorations as best I can. I also know that there are 9 dedicated yarn stores in Reykjavik. Now, I think the population here, is it 200,000? See, I'm not even sure if there's like 9 dedicated yarn stores in Melbourne. There's at least 2 million people in Melbourne, I think. Oh, I don't know actually. Probably got my stats wrong. If you do know, pop it in the chat. Feel free to correct me. Anyway, so far I have been to 4 of them and they have sustained my anecdotal evidence that European yarn stores are the best. Oh my goodness. I've picked up 2 new yarn tools that I'd never heard of. One of them I don't know what it does and how to use it yet because I haven't sat down to work it out. This knitting calculator. Anyway, if you're following along on Instagram, you'll see them there. But anyway, I have been doing a tiny bit of reading this week. I've been dipping in and out of the anthropology doctoral thesis by Helga, let me try and get this right, Ugmundardóttir. I don't know how to pronounce things in Icelandic yet, but anyway, it's called The Shepherds of Þjórsá. Again, I'm not claiming any accuracy or pronunciation there. Anyway, it explores a dispute between proposed damming project and the traditional sheep farming practices. And I do think it's an open access thesis. A thesis, it's really big, it's like 320 pages. But there's a great contents page so you can kind of dip in and out, which is what I've been doing as well. A few things that sort of caught my curiosity was Helga talks about the way in which nature is actually the most sort of central feature of the Icelandic identity, and that therefore threats to nature are a real threat to identity, not just to attachment or to resources or the other, I don't know, I guess other ways in which people react to threats to nature. Now, the thesis was published in 2011, which also means the research, the data gathering would have been probably a few years before then. That's not long after tourism started really growing exponentially here in Iceland, so which also brings with it a lot of environmental threats and estrangements. So it makes me wonder about how Icelanders are experiencing the impacts of tourism on their identity because of the environmental impacts of tourism and the estrangements, right? So Icelanders aren't an indigenous people in the meaning that they haven't experienced dispossession from colonial invasion. But Helga makes the point that the narratives are somewhat similar in the ways that Icelanders can feel dispossessed from place. because of increasing tourism. Well, she's talking about, in the thesis, is not about tourism. She's talking about a damming proposal. But tourism must be doing the same thing, or it is doing the same thing too. I know, I've read about it, I've heard people talking about it already. So it's not colonialism, but it has some similar impacts. So that's quite interesting. And in terms of wool, I guess it makes me wonder, where does wool sit in all of that as a mediator of some tourism things and a mediator of connection to place as well. So I'm curious about this. Another claim she makes in the thesis was about that whilst many people might have a feeling connection for the Highland Commons, is the area that she's looking at, those who keep sheep on the commons have a... Oh. This reminds me. So just when I think it's going to stop, it gets louder again. And I'm really hoping you could hear that last minute of church bells. It's still going. It's a bit quieter, so hopefully the mic is picking me up better. It does remind me mid-sentence that the reason for the very poor lighting is that I really wanted you to be able to see this in the background. So this is the classic kind of image people will see of Reykjavik, the cathedral. Now again, I don't know how to pronounce this, Hallgrímskirkja, something like this. And this is the back of it. So I'm on the balcony of the hostel I'm staying in. And yeah, it's pretty iconic. And there's no decorations inside. Like, it's got these beautiful vaulted ceilings, but you know, most cathedrals that I've ever seen across Europe, they're all painted on the top, and the walls and whatever else. No, it's just all kind of this concrete thing. It's really quite beautiful in its own way. Anyway, the church bells. Oh, I can hear another set going somewhere else too. So this is my first Sunday here. You hear them every day here, but I cannot work out the pattern because you hear them at no times. You don't hear them on the hour. It's like 10:30 in the morning. There must be a mass. I'm thinking that might be it. But anyway, I don't know what the other times during the week are, and they've never gone quite so long. They've been like 3 seconds. Anyway, back to what I was saying about, in the thesis, Helga makes this kind of claim that people who keep sheep on the commons have a stronger bond to the area than those who don't. And she doesn't really go into this to say how you could substantiate such a claim and who says this. But it did get me curious about the kind of other than human relationships that farming facilitates. Right, and she argues that herding sheep on the commons brings people into a more intimate connection with place. And it got me thinking about sort of the sheep-human place as a triptych, right? Like a three-part thing to be appreciated sort of together in its togetherness, rather than something to be kind of pulled apart. So anyway, it does make me wonder about how, again, wool mediating people's relationship to place. So anyway, that's a couple of the things that thesis, or the bits that I read, made me think about. Anyway, could go on, I won't. The thesis is super interesting though, so check it out if it's your thing. Now, a slight tangent about tangents. So PhD research, depending on the discipline maybe, but maybe not, presents many side quest opportunities. Now, they're not necessarily new directions for the research, but extra things or unexpected curiosities. And so this week I got unexpectedly curious about poo. Bear with me. I was in this big cathedral, and there's a sign that said there's no public toilet in the church. And it reminded me of the no pooping signs that are apparently out in the countryside, right? So it's one of those icon images where there's like a person taking a poo and a big red circle and a cross through it. Apparently they're everywhere. I haven't been out to the country yet, so but you can Google those if you haven't seen them either. Anyway, they're both surprising to me because of the little bubble that I live in, where I would never expect to find a public toilet in a church, and I would not expect to have to be told not to poop in a public tourist area in nature. But yeah, anyway, there is a public toilet. There's not enough public toilets for the kind of tourism that is here. Anyway, it did make me think though about how much poo Iceland has to process now, right? Like, so I looked this up just a little bit, and I did some really bad maths on this, right? But the average human poo is 128 grams, right? And let's say the average tourist stay is at about 6 nights in Iceland. And there's 2.26 million visitors a year at the moment. So 6 times 128 grams, 768 grams, getting close to a kilo. Times that by 2.26 million, and this is like 1,735 kilos of poo, I think, which is nearly 2 tons. I feel like that's not right. It must be like another zero on that. I don't know. Anyway, the population here is about 350,000. So they're producing about 268 kilograms of poo in a 6-day period. So this is a massive increase. Now, these maths, they don't actually work for a variety of reasons. They're more kind of demonstrating the scale of things, but the scale of things is going to be much bigger than I think the maths shows, right? But I'm not a qualitative researcher, so yeah, it's just more for fun. But yeah, there's a huge amount more poo having to be processed here, and it's not an impact of tourism that seems to be getting a lot of attention in anthropological literature. Shocking. But it would be fascinating to look at sort of the cultural, I guess, norms and narratives about public toilets and defecating and the impact of tourist effluent, actually, literally and metaphorically, is really, really rich. It's quite a digression from wool, and I don't expect that I will actually pursue it, because I think it's not even like a side quest thing. I just think that's a whole PhD. Really fascinating though. I do have a few other things that are better side quests, but I kind of keep them under my hat until they are a bit more developed. Anyway, if you've been thinking about an anthropology PhD in Iceland, poo would be an awesome topic. Okay. What have I been making? Let's move on. I have had a couple of trips to the Hand Knitting Association of Iceland. So cool. And I got to chat to a few of the president there and other staff, and really, really excellent. Anyway, I decided my first Lopapeysa was going to be this one. This is called the Gylhagi Lopapeysa, and it is by Hilda Sveinsdottir, who is actually the president of the association. And it's lovely. Probably again with this horrible bad lighting. Anyway, I quite like it. I bought a bunch of colours for it. They are in my colour kind of scheme, but they're colours that I don't wear very much, and I thought, no, I should do that so I have more diverse colours in my wardrobe. You know, how many oatmeal coloured sweaters do I need? Anyway, I got home, and that night I woke at 1 a.m. in the morning just thinking, they're the wrong colours. Anyway, so I went back and got more. Now, this is only an issue because I really don't have the storage space for that much wool. But here it is so far where I'm up to. So this is the bottom. And again, the lighting, you're just going to have to wait for another video to see the colours better. But yeah, it's an oatmeal-y colour. And yeah, turns out, I didn't know this, it is a seamless garment, but they knit the body, and then they knit the sleeves separately, and then they join them together at the bottom of the yoke and then knit it up. I was wondering about the logic of this, and it made me think it's going to make sleeves so much easier to knit because you're not having to move the whole garment around with it. Anyway, that's very exciting. So I'm looking forward to a new construction, new to me. Anyway, I haven't touched the Seafairdy vest. It's still in my suitcase and it's going to stay there until I'm sort of settled at my long-term stay. But the other thing is I worked on the balaclava and I finished it. So I did lots on it on the plane and I finished it off this morning, and I think I'm going to stick a hairpin in it. Here's how it's going. It's pretty cool. I think I was worried that this was going to be too thick, but actually it's so windy and cold here sometimes. I think having 3 layers around my ears is going to be lovely. And, I keep forgetting about the microphone there. You're not going to really be able to see it because of the scarf and everything, so I might have to wait for some other glamour shots, but there's the balaclava bit, and this, you know, like goes down here. Anyway, so do I love it? It's okay. It's functional. I think if I'm really having to leave the house on days where I really need to wear a balaclava, I'm going to be really glad I've got this. Yeah, just not sure when that's going to happen, but I trust that it will. Yeah, maybe there'll be some videos in balaclavas later. Okay, just rambling now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week with, I'll be in a new place. And yeah, see you then.